Shalom. This week we are reading Parashat Balak in the book of Numbers. We read about the efforts made by the heathen king Balak and the heathen prophet Balaam to curse the children of Israel. And of course, God changed the words of his curse into a blessing. Some of the most beautiful and profound statements that are recorded in the Torah in praise of Israel were, in fact, issued forth from the mouth of Balaam, the heathen prophet. And there's much that we can learn in the depth of the relationship between Israel and God from the words of these curses turned into blessings. And in chapter 23, verse 21, we read the words, Lo hibit avon b'Yaakov velo ra'a amal b'Yisrael. Hashem Elokav imo. We read that God does not see evil in Jacob, nor does he see perversity in Israel. The Lord, his God, is with him. And this is really interesting how Balaam, a man of evil intent, a man of the black arts, how he is addressing the issue of Israel's relationship with God regarding the topic of sin. But what's really interesting about these words, he doesn't mention sin. He doesn't see that God doesn't see sin in Jacob. He says he does not look at evil in Jacob, and he does not see perversity in Israel. So what is this really all about? He doesn't use the word avonot. He doesn't say lo hibit ba'avonot Israel. He doesn't say he doesn't see Jacob's or Israel's sins. So actually, there is a kind of a deep concept here that this is not referring to the sin itself, but it's the spiritual damage that's caused by sinning. There is the principal act itself of the sin, and then there is the whole world of the effect of that sin. And our sages tell us in the chapters of the Fathers, chapter 4, the expression avera goreret avera, that many times what happens with a person is that a person does a sin, and then a negative force kind of takes hold of him and grows in strength, and makes him continue on to other sins. One sin leads to another sin, avera goreret avera, and that is like the perversity, as it were, the evil that comes from, that is the effect of the sin. And regarding this, Balaam said that God does not see evil in Jacob and does not see perversity in Israel. And what he was actually referring to here was a very beautiful concept regarding the nature of Israel's relationship with God, as it were. And that is, it's true that we may sin, but the words Hashem Elokav imo, that the Lord, his God, is with him, what's really referring to is that even a person who's attached to Hashem, a person who is trying to live the life of the Torah, a person who really loves God, but sometimes his evil inclination gets the best of him and he does sin. But that person, even so, he knows that Hashem, his God, is still with him, and he doesn't exactly enjoy the sin so much. He has a great pain in his heart. His heart is broken within him because he has sinned. And it's kind of a different way of looking at the whole topic of sin. The Torah's outlook on this type of individual is really very healthy. Every person sins, and there's no such thing as a human being that doesn't occasionally fall. But the question is, how do we get back up afterwards? How do we perceive ourselves? Do we think that all is lost? Do we think that it's all over? And Solomon said that there's no such thing as a tzaddik, as a righteous person in the world that does good and never sins. Any person can lose it, can snap, can have some sort of temporary disconnect. And the question is, afterwards, how do we get back to God? Well, we can get back. And this is exactly what Balaam was envious of. He said, God doesn't perceive evil or perversity in Jacob, in Israel, because the Lord his God is with him, that even when we do the sin, afterwards, we can get back because of the fact that even when we did the sin, we knew that Hashem is with us. It's like, it reminds me of this kavanah. The Baal Shem Tov taught that when a person immerses in the mikveh, in the cleansing waters of the mikveh, which is a kind of spiritual rebirth, the spiritual experience, so a person immerses 3 times, corresponding to the verses that say Hashem Melech, Hashem is king, Hashem Malach, Hashem was king. Hashem Yimloch. God will be king. God is king, he always was king, and he always will be king. And the Holy Baal Shem Tov taught, when a person immerses himself 3 times, he thinks about this, and he says, Hashem is king now. I accept that he is my king. Hashem Malach, past tense. Hashem was king even when I sinned. Hashem Yimloch, and you know what? If I sin again, God is still my king, even when I sin in the future. And really what Balaam was saying here is that the fact that a person doesn't enjoy his sin altogether, doesn't get that much out of it because is torn apart and realizes okay, I can't help myself. That is the sign that Hashem, his God, is with him. And it's a very realistic and wholesome way of looking at the situation, looking at life, looking at the frailty of a true servant of God who really means well but is a human being. And Hashem never gives up on him. Hashem, his Lord, is with him. The Lord, his God, is with him. And he sees no perversity in Israel. I mean, he doesn't see the extensive, continuing spiritual damage. It's not there. Balaam said, yeah, maybe they sin, but it's on a superficial level. Their relationship is so deep and so real that even while they're sinning, they know that they're still God's children. They know that God still loves them, and they will get back on their feet afterwards. Balaam looked at that and he said, I wish I could have that level. And that was actually what he wanted to curse them with. He wanted to curse them with their sinfulness, but it turned into a blessing. He found himself saying Hashem loves them so much that Hashem, even at the time that they're sinning, doesn't perceive any spiritual damage, doesn't perceive evil, perversity. You know why? Because the Lord his God is with him. Even while he's sinning, he'll get back up on his feet afterwards, and he'll continue with all sincerity, with a broken heart, get back to where he was, and serve God with more strength, better than ever.